He has spoken on the topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
You ever had that conversation with somebody and you just feel like they've been reading your mail? Like they've been standing out in front of your house, intercepting everything that's coming into your mailbox. They're like, oh, a letter from grandma. Oh, a new letter from the IRS. Oh, you got new insurance. Oh, you bought a new car. It's like they know everything about you that you intentionally haven't told them. It's kind of frustrating, isn't it? Kind of annoying when they seem to know everything there is to know about you that you didn't tell them. There's a reason that leaders have that ability, both because it's a skill set that they've intentionally trained themselves on and because it's kind of that double-edged sword of which came first, the chicken or the egg. The people who have the ability to read other humans tend to migrate toward leadership. And the better they get at leadership, the better they get at reading other people. Now, here's the real question, though. Is it good that the people who lead you, and perhaps that you, with the people that you lead, seem to know secrets that nobody has actually told you? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. And if you've ever been in that moment where you feel like somebody has just read you the riot act about everything going on inside your head and, well, you didn't know how they knew that. I mean, maybe it's happened recently when you were having a conversation with a friend, maybe standing in the front yard and talking about the kind of grass that you have growing around and the weeds that you have in your driveway. And the next thing you know, you open up your Facebook ad, and here in the Facebook world, there are ads about Roundup and the cancer-causing effects of Roundup and what kind of chemicals we should or shouldn't be putting on our grass, and ads from companies that do landscaping and they want to come and take care of your grass for you. And it's amazing how your phone seems to be listening when you don't want it to be listening. Those kind of conversations seem to be eavesdropped on in a lot of different ways. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but it's a true story. There are now drones in the sky, satellites in the sky, some of which are used strictly for the technology of being able to track bad guys. But they're capable with very sensitive microphones and digital relationships with everything from your ATM cameras to your street corner cameras to other people's devices to triangulate and calculate where you are and what you're doing and what you're talking about and who you're talking to and who you're doing business with and the kind of things that you're buying and the kind of things that you're selling and where you're going. And that knowledge, that information, that data, that metadata is being shoved together in one place where it kind of creates a digital copy of your life. Now, that's one set of data that someone with a whole lot of power and influence has the ability to access, analyze, distribute at will, memorize, make decisions based on. And there's really not a whole lot you can do about it because that someone is the governments of the world. In some places, it's more prevalent than it is in others. There's a nice little show on Netflix called Hidden Camera. And when you watch that show, it's like it's not even a miniseries. It's like a whole series. There's several seasons of it. They talk about how they use the various cameras around town to monitor the behavior of people outside the pubs on a weekend night. And they will pick up the phone from central office and say, hey, on XYZ Street, there's about to be a fight. We're monitoring the behavior. We can see the body gestures and the posturing of XYZ individual. He's wearing this kind of shirt. He's on this kind of street corner. He's running in this way. And we feel like he's about to attack somebody. And they will dispatch the police officers to that location to deal with that problem before it even becomes a problem. They use the same kind of technology to track people down and say, yeah, they hit this car 3 days ago in this parking lot. We've been watching for it. Now we found the car. We have their plate number. We know exactly where they live. And the police will show up with video evidence and say, you hit this car on this street on that day, and here's your citation, or you're going to jail because it was malicious, whatever. But they use those cameras as tools for evidence to track your behavior and hold you accountable. In Shanghai, it goes even further than that. If you so much as step off the curb in not a place that is marked as a crosswalk, the camera will catch you. And because they use facial recognition technology, you just get a debit straight out of your checking account that holds you accountable for jaywalking. And so they'll literally just debit you right there. Just take it, demerits, deficiencies, whatever you want to call them, and you pay the bill. Because it's not like you get a citation in the mail, you get to argue about it. No, your accuser is a camera, and the camera is always right. That's the way it works. Now, the question is, if your leaders know so much about you, if your leaders are watching your every move, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Well, let me kind of back out for a minute and ask you about interesting relationships like, say, parent-child relationships, or teacher-student relationships, or mentor-mentee relationships, or a coach and his team, or a coach and his client. See, I feel like one of the greatest attributes that I bring to the table when I'm working with my coaching clients is not just the ability to hear what they say, but I have both a natural gifting and a skill set that I work on specifically to be able to read people beyond what they're willing to say. To look at their demeanor, the way they dress, the way they sit, their body language, their facial expressions, their reactions to certain things that I might say, their ideas, their political viewpoints, their worldviews, their relationships, and come to some pretty strong conclusions that are generally accurate. Now, I'm not the only one. I'm not saying I'm some kind of, magician or something. That's not at all what I'm getting to. What I'm saying is there are people who have risen up in leadership to various positions of leadership because they have both a natural gifting and a skill set to read people. And if you want to accelerate your position, your opportunity in reading people or in leadership, the two go hand in hand. The ability to understand how people think and why they think. Why do you think most leaders take things like the DISC personality profiles? I have friends from the John Maxwell team who have really focused in. Their niche is the DISC personality profiles. And they teach it from, why do you sell to this person? How do you sell to them? How do you communicate with them? What's important to them? How do you read the markers of their personality so that you know to change your pace? Slow down a little bit. They don't think like that. They don't think the same way you think about the same things that you think. And so you may need to modify your opinions or just keep them to yourself for a moment. You may need to modify the descriptors that you use for certain words. An example would be, do you see what I'm saying? Well, people who are not visual learners, they don't see what you're saying. They don't see it at all. They hear it because most people, when they speak, it's auditory. So they hear what you're saying, and when you ask them, do you see what I'm saying? They think there's something wrong with you. No, it's subconscious. It's not like they're throwing up red flags going, what is wrong with you? What do you mean, see what I'm saying? No, I don't see any words coming out of your mouth. It's not like that. It's subconscious. But it's a little chink in the armor. It's a little ding in the relationship. It's one more place where your communication skill, limited by your understanding of people, limited by your ability to read people, limited by your human relations skills, has put you at a disadvantage. Good leaders learn to read people. Now, sometimes that's frightening for the people that they're leading, because the people they're leading are like, how did you know that? I've told this before, but I recently had a potential client interview. They ended up not hiring me to do what they wanted done. But in the interview, they were saying, we want you to accomplish this and this and this and this. And I said, well, I have the skill set to do that. I don't have the history of doing that because it's not what I normally spend my time doing, but I can help you. And as I listened to the individual who is bringing me in for the presentation in front of his boss and their HR person, I began to pick up some things about him, his learning style, his communication style, his teaching style. And what I realized was they didn't have a sales process problem. They had a communication problem. Those are different. They're different problems. They require different solutions. And so without saying, hey, I don't care what salesperson you bring in that follows what method or what methodology, the problem that you have isn't a sales problem, and sales is not going to solve it. What you have is a communication problem, and that's based on who you are, how you think, and how you deliver what you're saying. It's not about the sales process. It's about your communication style. And so when I called him out and I just said, look, what I notice is you have a different way of thinking. And then I asked him, are you on the spectrum? And he said, actually, I am. How did you know that? And I said, well, and I believe that you have a really high acumen for numbers. He said, I do. How did you know that? Well, it's all about the priorities of how you communicate. So as a leader, my job is to be able to perceive those things in the people that I'm coaching, to be able to perceive those things in the people that I'm serving. Whether it's the audience, and I've got to pick them out quickly by people's body position, their gesture, the way they react to things that I say. Did they laugh or not laugh? Did they cringe? Did their eyebrows go up or down? The ability to do that on the fly, that takes a lot of practice and a lot of skill set. It takes a lot of research and a lot of reading. And yes, I've read books like Body Language and How to Tell When People Are Lying and How to Interrogate People, and people from the CIA and the FBI and all across the board. I study those things constantly. Why? Because I want to be quicker. I want to be faster. I want to be more accurate. Now let's go back to the original question though. Is that a good thing? See, leaders tend to have this insight that you might feel like your leader knows things about you you never intended for them to know. And on the one hand, you feel like, well, are they spying on me? Are they scraping my Facebook page? Are they going through all my social media? Are they showing up at my house and going through my mailbox? How do they know these things? And the reality is, just like a good poker player recognizes the tell of the people they're playing against, a good leader recognizes the tell of the people they lead. And sometimes they have to test their theories. And sometimes they have to ask their questions. And sometimes they just bring in other levels of observation, like attending a party or a family function. A lot of us, I've done it. I've both attended and been invited to private birthday parties that seem like they have nothing to do with work. We're going to have a birthday party for the kids. And, you invite your boss out of politeness, not because you really expect them to show up. But when they show up, you're a little bit surprised. Why would a boss do that? Because they're keen to observe the people in their unnatural environment. You know as well as I do, when you're at work, you've got your game face on. You know what is expected here. You suppress all those emotions and all those feelings and all that anger and all that frustration, all of what comes along with the everyday business. Think back for a moment. This is a strange reference, but I want you to think of the power of this reference. Think back to National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, when the crazy cousin kidnapped the boss and brought him into the house. And here's the whole family kind of going nuts. And then the boss shows up. And the boss gets to see the real life impact of the decision that he made. Why do you think shows like Undercover Boss are so important? Entertaining might be a better word. How about the people who recognize the undercover boss when they walk in the scene and they're like, that's so-and-so. I know who that is. I know they're playing a role, but that's really the big boss. But see, when you think you're catching people off guard, that birthday party, that mixer after work, that hangout place. Nobody's got their game face on in those environments. They're kind of letting their hair down, so to speak. It's a great place to observe people just to get an idea what they're really thinking, how they really are in their natural habitat, to observe how they interact with their own family, with their own siblings, their own spouse, their own kids. That'll tell you a lot about them. Is it a good thing? Well, if you are a good leader with good intentions, dare I say with a good heart, then little phrases like my friend Mitzi Gray said the other day, we need to teach them the way they learn. We need to teach them the way they learn. See, a good leader is observant for the point of saying, just like I do with an audience, when I look into that audience, I'm asking myself, how are they reacting to the words I just said? Now, the human brain processes subconsciously at about 40 gigabytes a second. It processes consciously at about 2K. So the words that I'm actually saying are on a slower track than what's going on in my mind and what's going on in the mind of the audience. And I understand that, so I know how to utilize that. When you're speaking and you're conversing with people, it's important that you're paying attention to all the signs around you. Teaching them the way they learn has a dual meaning. On the one hand, it means first, understanding how do they learn? What is the language that they speak? I don't go to Brazil and the Congo and Cuba and speak in English unless I know the audience is bilingual and more intelligent than I am, because I don't speak those other languages. What I do is go there and take an interpreter or a translator that can take the meaning of my words and translate them into the understanding they have. Now, it's even more efficient when I've already done that work for them. When I've translated a complicated understanding into a simplified text, I am teaching them the way they learn. I've taken things from the top shelf and I've brought them down to the lower shelf. That's what a good communicator does. That's what a good leader does. But let me give you the other side of the meaning of that phrase, teach them the way they learn. There are a lot of people, 10 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, who have not yet figured out what their learning style is. Again, we go back to the DISC personality profiles. It's one of many examples of understanding how I receive information, how I parse that information, how I decide what part of that information holds deep priority and what I can just throw away. And the way that my brain and my psyche and my emotional attachment processes that information is unique to me. The order in which I prioritize things, how my personality receives them, all of that comes together, and then it runs through the filter of my past experiences, the people that I've spent time with, the people that have wounded me or made me mad or made me angry, any trauma that I've dealt with in my life. All those became filters on the way that I learn. So part of a leader's role is to teach people the way that they learn, which both means to teach to them in a way that they can understand it, and it means to help them understand better how they learn. So, it seems like your leader knows secrets about you. Is that a good thing? Well, let me put it like this. If leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less than leadership is a tool. And it's not about the tool any more than it's about the communication or the personality style. It's about the heart of the leader. If your leader can read your mood and communicate with you differently because of it, if they can understand that you're having a bad day, I see a migraine all over your face, I hear the strain in your voice, I hope everything's okay at home. As a leader with compassion and a good heart, I'm not going to press you today unless it's absolutely necessary, because I realize you're already not yourself 100% and you're already at a disadvantage. At the same time, if I read that you are always filled with drama, any little excuse will cause you to call in sick, any little reason in the world and you don't show up for your job, any little reason that you have failed to accomplish the tasks that are at hand, you'll blame them on somebody else or make an excuse. That's a completely different read. I'm going to have a completely different response to that as a leader, as a manager, as a boss. So do I know secrets about you? Probably, because I've been watching from a distance. I've been listening to the things you said. I've been reading the tone of your email. I've been looking for those messages that come in all caps. I've been listening for the text messages or the lack thereof on those bad days. I've looked to spend time with you in a natural environment, in a habitat outside of work, just to see how you react with other people that you don't have the same level of pressure with. And I put all those things together so that when I communicate with you, it's the most powerful, most impactful, most concise way of communicating with you. Is that a good thing? I think if your leader knows secrets about you, but they have a good heart, that is a good thing. If, on the other hand, they're hiding cameras everywhere to catch you doing something bad, then we go back to that old philosophy, give me the man and I'll find a crime kind of theory that really is just looking for you to do something wrong. And that's not a good thing. In the end, it's really all about the heart of those who lead you. What will they do with the information they know about you, whether it's your deepest, darkest secrets or just an observation? You're going to have to know the heart of your leaders to know the truth about that. And as a leader, you're going to have to know your own heart well. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, or Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
I'm Chris Knowles, and I just finished taking J Loren Norris's Story Power Masterclass, and it was so worth the time, so worth the money. Really not someone that knows how to get up and speak in front of people, but he really made me feel comfortable, and he broke everything down in a way that I could understand it and helped me formulate a vision that I know that I'll use for the future. Thank you.
I want to personally invite you and your family to join me and the rest of our team to attend the 2023 Tide Life Conference. The entire conference has been sponsored by a host ministry, so there's absolutely no charge. It has all been taken care of. Now I know what you're thinking. Why would I give up my Saturday to go to an event that's only going to ask me for money? I mean, it's about tithing, so there's no surprise there, right? Well, that's not at all what this conference is about. You won't even need to bring your wallet. We're not taking up an offering, we're not doing fundraising, we're not selling memberships. In fact, not only will you not need to bring any money, we're actually giving money away, literally thousands of dollars. The Tide Life Conference is not like anything you have ever attended before, I promise. It's very interactive and full of exciting stage demonstrations. This is not a Sunday morning sermon. It's a high energy, guided group conversation about one of the most controversial topics amongst Christians, tithing. We'll talk about what it is, what it's not, but most importantly, what God says about the matter and how it applies to your life, your family, and your relationship with God. So dress comfortably, bring your difficult questions. I promise, when you leave this conference, you will never look at tithing the same. Leave your wallet, bring your heart.
Loren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Loren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Loren will serve you well.
Thank you.